The members of Syrian delegation explained to the world the real situation in Syria, especially the question of terrorism. Units of the Syrian Arab Army eliminate dozens of terrorists in several areas. Iranian president stresses from Davos the necessity of stopping violence and combating terrorism.
This is Irado Krikorian with the news in English. The Syrian official delegations' meetings with the delegations of the states taking part in the Geneva II conference have been resumed in the Swiss city of Montreux amidst emphasis on Syria's sovereignty and rejection of all forms of foreign intervention. The meetings stressed the need to combat terrorism and stop financing it. The Syrian official delegation headed by Foreign and Expatriates Minister Walid al-Muallim met the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi, who reiterated his country's support for a peaceful solution to the crisis in Syria, pointing out that it would be the only practical and useful way to solve the crisis. The Chinese minister said the world community should avoid imposing any political solution from abroad to the crisis, calling on all parties to outline a framework for the dialogue. He stressed that all sides must be aware that there is no foreign military solution to the crisis. Information Minister Omran al-Zoubi has said combating terrorism is the main topic of the Geneva II conference and confronting it must be agreed upon and the whole world must support us in this task. Mr. al-Zoubi stressed that it is the Syrians who must decide their own future. He added that Syria was there at the conference with its people, government and leadership in front of all the foreign ministers of the states that have conspired against it and had armed and financed the terrorists and took part in the acts of killing. They have all listened to Syria's quiet and firm address that has still been defending Syria today, even after 3 years of conspiracy and blockade. The media advisor at the presidency, Dr. Buthayna Sha'ban, has said the terrorist Takfiri thought does not only threaten Syria but the region and the world as a whole, hoping all sides would be convinced of this fact. In an interview with Al Mayadeen channel, Dr. Sha'ban said there are certain points in Geneva II which are still valid, but reality requires change of priorities, particularly restoration of security and the halt of financing and arming the terrorists. Dr. Sha'ban said the states that wish good for Syria would agree to such priorities, whereas those conspiring against it would reject them. During a press conference in Montreux following the second session of the Geneva II conference, member of the Syrian official delegation taking part in the conference, Dr. Bashar al-Ja'fari, said that the conference is required to help the Syrian people end terrorism and pressure the states supporting it to stop such support.
Member of the Syrian official delegation taking part in Geneva II, Dr. Bashar Ja'fari, has said the conference is required to help the Syrian people end terrorism and pressure the states supporting it to stop such support. Dr. Ja'fari also stressed that the Syrian people are the only side entitled to decide their own future. He added that the Syrian dialogue is led by the Syrians themselves in order to reach an understanding between the government and the opposition. Ja'fari pointed out that the first item of Geneva I stipulates the halt of violence and terrorism. We insist that this item be implemented, Dr. Ja'fari said, adding that on this basis has been founded the Syrian initiative in Aleppo, because a political solution cannot be consistent with terrorism. Ja'fari underlined the need for the American and Russian mediators to earnestly exercise pressure, affirming that the Americans, to begin with, should stop supplying weapons and making hostile statements like the ones made by Secretary of State John Kerry in his press conference. Jafari referred in this context to the statement made by former Secretary of Defense Leon Banita, who admitted to the presence of certain states that have militarily supported the terrorists, and another statement by French President François Hollande about French jihadists fighting in Syria. This was followed, Dr. Jafari added, by British Foreign Secretary William Hague's declaration that British extremists have been fighting in Syria. Jafari said in this context that the French government had killed terrorist Mohamed Marrah in Lyon with 300 bullets, yet it has been, ironically enough, training similar terrorists to send them to Syria, calling them revolutionaries. Jafari noted that the British Foreign Secretary had withdrawn the British nationality from 500 terrorists who have been fighting in Syria to prevent their return to Britain.
A kind of understanding.
The English news correspondent has interviewed several citizens in Latakia to know their opinion concerning Geneva II conference.
The whole of terrorism that is digged by US, European countries, Israel, Saudi Arabia, Qatar and others will swallow the world up if they don't stop this dirty conspiracy. What are you expecting from Geneva II? I expect good things because we are innocent, we are good people, we deserve peace, the previous peace which we lived before this world conspiracy. I don't expect anything good from Geneva II. We as Syrian people depend on our national army, the Arab Syrian army. I'm not sure really, but I hope fine results will come from this conference. I'm optimistic we want from the world to stop terrorism in Syria. Syrians held hopes on Geneva II conference. They wait a decision that stop killing, slaughtering and raping. They are waiting a formal identification for terrorism in Syria. It is a difficult question to answer what I expect from Geneva II. I think there will be nothing new. I hope the opposite. We are waiting for peace. We are eager to live without terrorists, bombs, killing, takfiri, slaughtering. It is just nonsense. We don't care about anything outside. We depend on Syrian army and Syrian people. I think Syria is protected by God. I hope that Syria will come back as it was before, the country of peace, real freedom and love. We have a great confidence in the Syrian delegation. Terrorist takfiri groups destroy peace and life in Syria. It is one clear demand. Stop sending terrorists, stop sending weapons to the Syrian land. For the English News Syrian channel, Ranim El-Basha.
Units of the Syrian Arab Armed Forces eliminated all members of an armed terrorist group in Al-Qusur and Al-Hamidiyya neighborhoods in Homs and destroyed their weapons. Another army unit confronted terrorists who tried to infiltrate from the village of Sahrij into the village of Tulul al-Hawa in Al-Mukharram area, killing 7 terrorists and destroying a car equipped with heavy machine gun. All members of armed terrorist groups were killed and wounded while they were trying to attack the military checkpoints in Garaj al-Darwish, Beit al-Nabhan, At-Talle, near Abaid fuel station, Sharshuh and Al-Ghurbal in Talbisa town. An army unit destroyed a rocket launcher in Ain Hussein in Homs countryside, while another army unit killed 15 terrorists and injured 25 others in Masil al-Abudiyya on the southern countryside of Al-Qusayr. Army units destroyed terrorist hideout in the village of Asila in Al-Rastan countryside and also destroyed a car equipped with heavy machine gun in Taldaw village, killing a number of terrorists. In Idlib, Syrian Arab armed forces eliminated terrorists in the villages of Binnish, Kafarjalis, Ard al-Dosa and Al-Shweiha north of Abu Dhuhr airport, destroying their weapons and ammunition. Army units also foiled attempts by terrorists to detonate 3 explosive charges on Al-Mastouma road. Israeli occupation troops transported 3 wounded terrorists fighting in Syria into Nahariya hospital inside the occupied territories. More than 194 wounded terrorists have been taken into Israeli hospitals since the start of the crisis, as 18 of them are still receiving treatment there. The terrorists who committed horrific crimes in Syria and tried to destroy the country's infrastructure are being given extreme care, as 2 terrorist leaders were taken to Rimbab Hospital in Haifa. British police say 2 women have been charged in relation to funding terrorist activities in Syria. 1 woman was detained at London's Heathrow airport as she prepared to board a flight to Turkey. At the time, officers said they had seized a large quantity of cash. The other woman was arrested later that day in northeast London. Police said that both British women have been charged with arranging funds which they knew or had reasonable cause to suspect would or might be used for the purposes of terrorism. Metropolitan Police added that the charges relate to terrorist activity in Syria specifically. The women are to appear at London's Westminster Magistrates Court today. Finally, Iranian President Hassan Rouhani stressed the necessity of stopping violence in Syria and combating terrorism first in order to reach a positive result for solving the crisis. Rouhani, in a speech at Davos Forum, pointed out that no country can determine Syria's destiny on behalf of the Syrian people, as those who are killing the Syrian people are now fighting one another. President Rouhani added that terrorism and violence may affect everyone in the region, calling for unifying efforts to fight terrorists and cut off their funding. With this, to end our news for today. Thank you for watching. For more details about Syria and the region and to view this bulletin again, you can always visit our website in English, syriaonline.sy. Now to latest business and market news with Karun Kürkcan, but after a short break.
Good afternoon. The Minister of Electricity, Imad Khamis, during a meeting today, asserted that the ministry will take new procedures to support the electricity establishments in all Syrian cities. He also added that these new procedures aim at preventing wasting the electrical power, as the ministry will take strict measures to preventing damaging the electricity establishments. The Minister of Industry, during a visit The Minister of Industry, during a visit to the Industrial Research Center, asserted that this center supports the industrial sector, as it is playing a major role with the affiliate companies. Moreover, the minister stressed the importance of reactivating this center in order to develop the working mechanism of all the governmental institutions. A source in the general establishment of consumption showed that the sales plan for this year reached 3.5 billion Syrian pounds, increasing 70 million Syrian pounds since last year. The establishment plans opening new selling centers in order to provide the citizens with basic needs with affordable prices. On the other hand, the establishment branches have started distributing sugar, and it will distribute rice during next week, noting that the establishment reserve of rice is sufficient. The Director General of the Free Zones establishment asserted that the establishment revenues reached 796 million Syrian pounds. He also indicated that the investment capital reached $690 million, as investors were 2,155, while the foreign investment companies were 78 with a capital of $84 million. On the other hand, the Free Zones establishment has transferred about 500 million Syrian pounds to the government's treasury last year. U.S. crude oil halted and advanced near a 3-week high, amid speculation that Chinese fuel demand will slow after a manufacturing index unexpectedly contracted. Futures were little changed after rising for a third day to close at the highest level since December 31st. European stocks were little changed, with the Stoxx Europe 600 index trading near a 6-year high, as a report showed that the manufacturing in China probably contracted this month. Japanese shares, on the other hand, fell, with the Topix index erasing earlier gains. Chairman of the Jewelers Assembly said that the golden Syrian coin will be in the market next Saturday. Moreover, he pointed out that the amount of gold that is sold in Damascus and its countryside reached 15 kilograms, expecting this number to increase through the next weeks to 20 kilograms a week. The euro rose the most against the US dollar in 3 months, after reports showed that French manufacturing increased more this month than analysts forecast, boosting optimism that growth in the region is getting stronger. Ladies and gentlemen, with this we reach the end of our news. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.